Hey, everybody. I'm Portia Sabin, president of the Music Business Association. Welcome to Music Biz Live, Onward and Upward. I'm very excited to welcome Ula Obermann, Global Head of Music for TikTok. Hey, Ula.
Hi, Portia. Hey, how are you?
Good to see you.
You
So,
too.
I think we wanted to get this show, sort of kick the show off with a vibe, which is like such a TikTok word.
Yeah, I think we have a song which is really trending right now, which definitely sets the vibe. So let's roll that short spot, and then we can talk about how that fits into the broader everything that's happening on TikTok right now.
Sounds good.
Now here you go again. You say you want your freedom. It's only right that you should play the way you feel it.
That's so great. I love that.
Yeah, great song from sort of 40 years ago that's having a massive revival right now. And I think a lot of people who weren't even born when the song was originally released are discovering it through that awesome video that guy posted, on his longboard in Idaho, sipping on some cranberry juice.
Exactly. And I think, I think that's one of the things that's so cool about TikTok is that it's really, it's obviously a platform where new artists can showcase their stuff, which we'll get to. But it's also amazingly a platform for older artists to be discovered by a new generation. And, for someone like me who ran a record label for many years, that's an incredible gift.
Yeah. I think you're right. And it's kind of a fun place to start. I worked for Warner for a bunch of years and Sony for a bunch of years before coming over to TikTok. And one of the things we spent a ton of time on as we were transitioning to a streaming world was thinking about how do we make these catalogs of music relevant again. We used to kind of repackage them and do box sets of legacy artists, and it was harder to do that in a streaming world. And TikTok, I think, brings a ton of value to the industry in terms of being able to do that, because if the vibe's right, if the lyrics are right, if there's some visual element to a certain band, that song might find a massive audience. That Dreams is up to about 350 million views now, and 100,000 creations over the course of a handful of weeks. Well, it started a little earlier than that, but the last couple of weeks is when it's really sort of gone crazy. So you just think about that exposure, and like I said, I think a lot of the people who are watching that video and maybe even creating a video using that song probably were not born when that song was originally released. So I get really excited about that piece of the potential of TikTok.
Absolutely. I mean, we have a band on our label called Bratmobile, and they have a song that is trending on TikTok, that was trending on TikTok, and they've been number 3 on our streaming chart for like the last 10 weeks because of it.
Right.
And that's a song from 25 years ago.
Yeah. Well, Fleetwood Mac, same thing happening right now. It's charting on all the major streaming services. I think even physical sales are going through the roof. So we definitely keep a close eye on the impact that success on TikTok has on kind of the broader, industry and obviously revenue in the industry. And we see some really great impact. I think, one thing we haven't even mentioned, Mick Fleetwood actually, jumped right in and got himself involved and created his own version of that video, which I think is amazing. And that's one fun thing about Fleetwood Mac is they, I think they're creative. They're sort of willing to do things to appeal to the next generation. So it's awesome when an artist gets involved in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned that you have sort of a long career in the industry. You were at Sony and Warner in the past, and you did a whole bunch of the digital space. But it's funny because the digital space has changed so much. So now you're at TikTok, which really has been in the marketplace for like 2 years. It's a pretty new company, basically. So, I mean, I know that you have a ton of experience, but then you're also faced with this like brand new world of new tech, new engagement possibilities. So how did your previous experience sort of prepare you for this role?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the really sort of interesting and stimulating things about being in these digital business development or strategy jobs with the labels is they're global companies and they're dealing with every new, startup or entrepreneurial company that's out there that wants to work with music. So being at Sony and Warner, I had the chance to do literally hundreds of deals, all sorts of business models. Some of them became very successful. Spotify, YouTube were deals I worked on in sort of the first rev of those companies. And then many of them, go to market and don't make it, or maybe don't even make it to market at all. But you see all these trends coming through the doors because everybody wants to work with you and wants to license your music into their service. And there were probably 2 or 3 times during those sort of 13 years plus that I got so excited about something that I actually thought, should I sort of jump to the other side? And one of them, and the most exciting one, was TikTok, because we had deals with Flipagram and Musical.ly, which were companies that ByteDance bought, and then they morphed, or Musical.ly morphed into TikTok. So I got to know those guys when we were doing those deals. Really started using TikTok before it was kind of relaunched and rebranded and became Western. So the stuff I was seeing on TikTok at the beginning, it was almost all music from kind of Asia Pacific, songs, almost every song I'd never heard before, crazy sort of moonwalks and dances I had never seen before, but I just got absolutely obsessed. Like I kept thinking about how this was the perfect marketing platform or direct marketing machine for music, right? It ticks all the boxes because it was a catchy song combined with a visual element, often on repeat, because you hear the same song in your For You feed over and over again. And if it's something that appeals to you, and I think TikTok does a great job of making sure the song does appeal to you because of the way the app works, and every feed being personalized, you just get so hooked on that song, you can't get it out of your head. The whole sort of repetition builds affinity thing really plays true. So I would literally just sit there for hours and scroll through, and I was just falling in love with all these songs. I couldn't even understand any of the lyrics, but I thought to myself, like, this is completely game changing. Nothing like this has existed. And so, I started talking to them, and I was able to come over in this role. TikTok at that point was very focused on hiring people who understood music and rights and the way the business works, because we're very focused on working with the industry. So I got hired. We were able to bring over a bunch of other people from labels and publishers in the industry. And now I think we've got a great team in place that's trying to continue to build all this out.
Well, I think what's particularly interesting to me about what you just said about, your own experience with the app, even though you couldn't even understand the songs necessarily, is that there's like an authenticity to the platform. I mean, I think it's asking people to, it's not asking, it's giving people an opportunity to do things that are just completely things they would do anyway, and then present it in this very catchy format. And so I feel like, obviously we have TikTok stars, people who've risen to be, fabulous and famous. But at the same time, you have people doing stuff like the guy on his longboard with the cranberry juice. It's a platform where people can be real, and I think it's the realness that is appealing. It's not necessarily that you go to TikTok for glossy production value. You actually go to see what your fellow people are doing.
Right. I think that's absolutely right. There's a great quote from the New York Times probably about a half a year ago, where the writer called TikTok the last sunny corner on the internet. And I think that, and also one of our, kind of core missions is to bring joy and creativity. And we really believe that. And I think it doesn't even come from us. It comes from the creators who are on the platform. You know, they're the community. They're the ones who set the tone. They're the ones who I think sort of set the standard that it is authentic and that everyone can make fun of themselves if they want to, you know, or they can showcase amazing things that they can do, or create an incredible dance that's beautifully choreographed to a great song that no one's has heard before, but it's all incredibly authentic. And, you know, you rarely see sort of high glossy production happening, which I think you just said. So I think there's almost a sort of counterculture movement where people needed that, and TikTok and the creator community on TikTok sort of felt that and acted on it. And that's why it resonates in the way that it does.
Totally. I mean, creation and engagement are sort of the watchwords for you guys at this point, you know, not necessarily just like click-throughs or views or whatever. I think it's all about creation. Do you want to talk about that word a little bit?
Yeah, I think creation and engagement, both of those words we should talk about. So I really believe that we're on to a new format on TikTok. You know, it used to be, the industry has always worked where it was a one-way listen, whether it was someone listening on vinyl or a cassette or a CD or listening to a download or a stream. It was a one-way street. It was a passive listen that the fan or listener was sort of doing, and that was their way of expressing their fandom for that song, because they were choosing to engage in that one-way stream, right? Or that one-way listen. I think what's so interesting about TikTok is that the leading sort of indicator and metric that we look at when we think about, you know, what is happening with this song, is this a song that has something to it that's going to blow up on the platform? It's all about the creations, because if the creator or the fan is willing to engage with the song, that's a much bigger commitment than just a passive listen, obviously, right? You're actually, you know, you're hearing that song, you're getting excited about that song, and you're creating something that is often based on that song or is sort of built around the song in some way. And so if a creator or a fan is willing to do that, you know, that's, in my mind, the equivalent of listening to that song 1,000 times over, because you're actually doing something as opposed to just sitting there and taking the music in. So it's a really important metric for us. And, you know, I really believe that the charts of the future, the measurements of success of the future, the way labels and publishers will think, and artists and managers will think about the level of success that they're achieving, will be as much focused, or perhaps even more so in the sort of longer term, focused on creation and engagement with that musical work rather than just a listen. So it's you know, that's through the music lens. And then for TikTok overall, creators and creation, you know, that's our lifeblood, right? Like, we are a user-generated platform. I think the thing that separates us from the competition at this stage is that we have this incredible community of creators who I always sort of, when people ask me what I love most about TikTok, one of the things that always comes to mind is every day I see at least one video where I sort of stop and say to myself, I cannot believe the amount of creativity or the amount of storytelling that just happened in 15 seconds, right? Like it is amazing how these creators can pack it all in. And you can watch sometimes and feel like you've just seen something that was 3 minutes long, but meanwhile it was 15 seconds long. But it's still, it told this whole story and lots of different things happened, but it was just sort of beautifully, you know, compressed into a 50-second clip. So for TikTok overall, you know, that creator community is so important, and without them creating, we don't have a platform, and we don't have an audience, and we don't have a business that we're trying to build on top of that. So it is the most important thing for us.
Yeah, and I think there's something also about, I'm trying to figure out the right word. I mean, I think joy gets close to it, but it's something about putting energy out into the world, right? And to me, I think that that's what you were saying when you said you started watching these videos from like Southeast Asia, where you didn't understand the words, but you were captured by something about it, by the energy, by the commitment, the joy, something like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like,
Yeah.
one of the cool things about TikTok is that it's really creating this global community. I mean, we're seeing stuff in the music industry. I mean, you've been in the industry a long time. Did you ever think there'd be like a BTS? Like, did you think there'd be like this huge love for,
Yeah.
K-pop in the US?
Yeah. Right. Well, look, I think we're actually in the early innings of that. I believe that right now we have K-pop, we have J-pop. We've had, I think, Latin repertoire that has done well outside of Latin America for a little while now. That's been something we've kind of grown up with to some extent, although it's become a bigger deal. But I have no doubt in my mind that there will be, a massive song that comes out of Sri Lanka, and it's a singer out of Sri Lanka who gets partnered up with a DJ out of the Netherlands, and this becomes the biggest song on the Billboard chart. Like, that will absolutely happen, and I think a big part of it will be TikTok, because we're able to bring all of these creators together. And it is a global platform, and the kind of velocity with which you can travel from one country to the next, and 3 days later you're a global sort of known song, that just has never existed in the way that it does on TikTok. So it's one of the things that gets me really excited about thinking sort of 5 to 10 years out, is the music business and kind of music culture will become much more global than it is today. And it's already pretty global today.
Definitely. So, how are like record stores, record labels, other businesses using the platform other than, just the creators that we're talking about?
Yeah, and record stores, including streaming platforms and even physical record stores you're talking about, right? You mean just across the board? Yeah. One thing that we see pretty much across the board is every service, or everyone who's playing music now has a TikTok playlist, or maybe even many TikTok playlists, because in so many cases, these songs are kind of born and initially discovered on TikTok, and then they make their way into the Shazam charts and into streaming charts, et cetera, et cetera. But if you go to, I think, pretty much every streaming service, and even physical retail, for example, you're going to see a TikTok chart be part of how they are presenting music. And I think in particular, sort of the viral stuff, or the slightly less discovered stuff, because that's what everyone associates most with what's kind of bubbling on TikTok.
And I mean, do you find that the playlist, how do people engage with the playlist on TikTok? Is that the same as they would engage with it on other platforms?
No, I think the playlist on TikTok is, it's nice you can look at the playlist in order to see which tracks are, what that country that you're in's chart looks like, TikTok chart, or what a viral chart looks like in the country that you're in. And we do have some programming and editorial around, kind of moods or genres, et cetera. What we're trying to do there is really just to help people navigate finding the right song that they're going to use in their creation, right? So it's not, it's actually a really different, I think, user experience than you'd have on a Spotify or an Apple Music or an Amazon playlist, where you're going in and you're saying, I want to listen to a certain genre, and you're going to, again, sit back, and it's a one-way passive listening experience where 20 songs are going to come at you. Here, it's a very interactive experience where you go in and you say, I really want to find a song, that has a certain tempo to it, because I'm going to make a really, fast-paced extreme skiing video on TikTok or something like that, right? So you're using that kind of taxonomy to navigate finding the right sound to make a video, as opposed to just listen in a one-way street.
So that really makes TikTok kind of stand out from the other platforms that are out there, because it seems like you guys really are about creation and engagement.
Yeah.
not just passive listening necessarily.
Yeah. 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 I think, look, we are first and foremost for the music industry. I think we are a marketing and promotion and discovery platform. We don't have full length songs. We're not on demand. You're not building a user playlist and just listening to music. But you have this incredible creator community that is in there unearthing, these songs that maybe no one has ever heard of before, unsigned artists in many cases, or indie artists that have not been discovered anywhere else. And that creator community, I think they almost take pride in being the ones who find those and perhaps kind of, propel them into becoming TikTok famous, because they create an amazing video that sort of starts it all off. And I think that's another thing that is worth talking about. And I think we had a great session earlier with Corey Sheridan, who runs the US team, and a couple of his guys. And they talked about, how do you work with TikTok? So they covered a lot of this in depth, but, really the goal for any aspiring musician on TikTok, I think, is have that creator. You could be the creator yourself, but if not, or in addition to, have a creator find your song, create something that's exciting, resonates with the fans, the user base. That will lead to a lot of views. And then a percentage, if the song resonates, a percentage of the people who are viewing the video will then create with that sound as well, or that song. And so that kind of takes it to the next level. And then that means even more views. And then there are even more creations off of those views. So it's like this amazing, kind of back and forth pendulum between the creations and the views. And if it really starts moving, that's how you can just get to these absolutely massive numbers in a very short period of time.
That's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
So let's move into talking about your partnership with United Masters. I'm really interested to hear more about that.
Yeah. So we got to know Steve Stout a few months ago, and he and I, built a good relationship. He's got a great relationship with some other people who are at the company. A few people from TikTok's music team came from United Masters. United Masters is one of a bunch of great companies out there that is making distribution much easier for budding artists, unsigned artists. So you sign up for a subscription with United Masters, and then they distribute your music into all of the major music services. And then they do all the, reporting and accounting and sort of the logistics of getting the new music delivered, et cetera. They do all that for you. And you've got an app on your phone that allows you to upload the songs, upload your art, and then pull down your reporting and, even your financial statements. So it's literally, Steve likes to say, it's a record label in your pocket, or a record label on your phone. So we started to talk to him. And one of the things we've been really focused on is, how do we make it easier for all of the unsigned artists who are on TikTok to make a living and become popular and become, musicians and career musicians, if that's what they want to do. So we thought having this integration with United Masters is going to make it much easier for an unsigned artist who's on TikTok to go right into the United Masters experience, sign up for an account, and then get their music distributed to all of the other major music services that are out there. So it's the first of, I think, deals like this that we will do, but we're really excited about it. And, we're going to learn a lot from it. And we hope that some artists that we all get to know and love come up through TikTok and then into United Masters.
Nice. So as you know very well, we've obviously been having this horrendous pandemic for the last 7 months that's kept us all, changed everything about how we do business. We don't travel anymore. We stay home. But, it seems like it's been also kind of had a bunch of silver linings that people weren't looking for. And one of them is obviously that it's just spurred a ton of creativity in people who are staying at home and who are, putting what they're doing at home on TikTok.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we can talk a little bit about that and kind of the programming and everything that we learned through sort of the pandemic and the Happy at Home campaign. We have a video that we should play, which I think tells the story in 15 seconds, of course, of some of the fun things that people were doing while they were locked up in their homes. So let's play that and then we can come back to this.
Okay, I'm bored in a house and I'm in a house bored. Bored in a house and I'm in a house bored. Bored in a house and I'm in a house bored. And I'm bored in a house and I'm in a house bored. Bored in a house, bored in a house, bored. Bored in a house, bored in a house, bored. I'm bored in a house and I'm in a house bored.
Awesome.
Are you crying because you just were inspired and you're joyful? Yeah.
Yes. My 10-year-old has shown me so many of those.
Right. That's a Curtis Roach song or sound, and I think he's an awesome creative musician, and obviously that one sort of struck a nerve with lots of TikTok creators because everyone was bored in their houses, and so they were willing to let us have a glimpse into what they were doing to spend the time and entertain themselves. And there's just some hilarious stuff in there, as I'm sure you all saw.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
what's the Happy at Home?
We did a campaign, and this I think this is interesting because TikTok, as we talked about, it's a user-generated platform. It's about the creators. They find the thing that they want to rally around, and then they create these amazing short videos to tell that story. But what we did during the lockdown is we came up with some programming ideas for the first time. So the last week of March, we did a 5-day event, several hours of live streaming each afternoon. I'm trying to remember all 5 of them. It was Motivational Monday kicked it off, and then Sound Check Friday was the closing on Friday. So Motivational Monday was like Tyra Banks, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think Addison Rae and a couple of the creators were in there, and it was all about fitness and mental health and well-being and cooking well, and live streaming that spoke to that. And then Soundcheck Friday obviously was a series of live stream musical events, and we had like Megan Thee Stallion, big name artists, as well as a few unsigned artists who were really starting to bubble up on TikTok. And we had huge success with that. We tied into a couple of charities because we thought it was really important during that time to try to raise awareness and funds for those in need. So we're really successful with fundraising as well. But it gave us, a glimpse into, I think, where the platform could go in terms of mixing live streaming and also programmed or curated content in with all of the user-generated content, which is really sort of the lifeblood of TikTok. So I'd say very, very good results, but still really early days. But it's definitely something, we're going to continue to focus on. Live streaming in particular, obviously, is really important for music right now because artists aren't able to tour. And so we think, in the next sort of year or so, while this is still a big issue, we want to support, and we want to be able to try to give them a way to reach their fans through a live stream if they can't be playing, in a venue in front of them live.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think you just said it. We're probably in this somewhat holding pattern for the foreseeable future because there's no real plan at the moment of how to get ourselves back into the way things used to be.
Right.
But given that, what are you excited about in terms of the future? Like, what do you see 6 to 12 months down the road for the music industry and for TikTok?
Yeah, I'm excited about the fact that there's more creativity and it's more accessible than it ever has been, and I think that's largely because this whole format of user-generated content, of engagement and creation as much as just the views, is becoming so important. So I think we're going to continue to see incredible creative outputs happening on TikTok and other places. I think we're going to have, some big stars who get born on TikTok and get signed to major labels or, independent labels, or maybe they go DIY, but they will become big superstar global artists, and it will start on TikTok. So that's really what gets me the most excited, is the fact that I know that's coming. I don't think that's coming. I know that's going to continue to happen. I'm excited about the success we're having with catalog, like that Fleetwood Mac example we started with. There was one, I absolutely love Tom Petty. He's one of my favorite artists growing up. And there's a video of a guy in his driveway with a hockey stick, and he's got his guitar up against the garage, and he shoots a puck, and he hits, I think it's a G, a D, a D, a G chord, which is the beginning of Free Falling. And it's just the most awesome, like it gives me goosebumps when I watch this video, because it's like such an amazing way to pay tribute to an amazing song, an amazing musician who's no longer with us. And it's just so creative, so I'm really excited about reviving these amazing catalog songs, probably even personally, because I grew up on a lot of those songs, but we're going to keep doing that. And I'm excited about different genres of music as well, right? Like, I think when you think about what has been happening on TikTok, it's pretty broad, but there are certain genres that have been the most dominant. I definitely see us being able to expand into, every musical genre over time, and hopefully helping these great musicians find their audience through TikTok, whether it's classical music, jazz, heavy metal, whatever the case might be, I think we can do it on TikTok.
Yeah, definitely. I think, also just, I think one of the coolest things about TikTok is that it's sort of shown the world, or certainly shown this country, that, your friends and neighbors are more creative than you thought they were. I feel like stardom has always been this sort of, oh, those are other people kind of thing in our culture.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, the next big star could be your kid or your, neighbor.
Right. Yeah, totally agree. I think that gets back to something that you said early on, which is that authentic nature of TikTok. There's a lot of talented people. Everybody has a talent, and it's just a matter of being comfortable enough to express that creativity. And so if we can maintain that kind of culture and that sensibility of people being authentic and being comfortable expressing themselves in a way where maybe they weren't willing to do that on other platforms or in other sort of venues, but if we can keep that going on TikTok, I think that's kind of what you're getting at, is the most unassuming kid in his bedroom composing a song right now could end up being the next Tom Petty, let's say.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Also, definitely I want to shout out Corey and his team this morning. Their presentation was really terrific, and they spent a really long time giving answers to pretty much all of the questions that popped up. Yeah. So for those of you who are watching this interview, we're going to have those recorded. You guys can go back and check that out, because that was extremely, extremely helpful. I think for creators, I think for people who really want the sort of nitty-gritty creator part, information. We're sort of more big picture in this interview, and that's why I wanted to talk to you about your perspective on it. It's such a strange time, because it's like the music industry is shrinking and growing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's getting more focused, and it's getting broader at the same time. And I think platforms like TikTok really highlight that. It's getting more democratic in a weird way, right. Where I think, like I was just saying, we've had this sort of culture of superstars, and then the rest of us little, plebeians down here. And now it's kind of like, you can be a star too, if you have something to say.
Right. Yeah. I think that's healthy for the industry, right? We want engagement. We want people, the music's going to make you feel things. The music's going to give you goosebumps. You're going to find the song that is special to you. That's always going to be the same, no matter how you get it delivered to you. But if you can give people the chance to build on top of that and express themselves creatively on top of that song after they feel that way, I think that's an amazing thing, and we all need a little joy right now. So it's timely.
Absolutely. So are you guys moving forward with the joy theme? Because I actually saw a report was released today that Nielsen found something like 61% of respondents said that they find joy. They go to TikTok every day to get their like infusion of joy, which I thought was really cool.
Right. We are committed to get that number even higher. But yes, that is a key mission for us.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for talking to me today. It's been really great to see you and your classical background.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I forgot to say, we just joined MusicBiz as a member company. So we're very happy to be with you guys. Tracy Gardner is going to sit on the board. So we're happy to be more and more involved with you.
Thank you very much for that. We're excited to have you. And thanks to everybody for checking out this interview. And have a great day. Thanks, Ula. It was good to see you.
Good to see you too.